Hi, Marcus. In your first article, The Athletic, you talked about your foray into sports journalism, and you mentioned this great anecdote about how you would take the sports section from your grandmother's newspaper and then very neatly put it back because she wanted to make sure those papers were all set.
Because she was a hater. Yeah.
What when you would go sneak those sports sections out of there and would read them at the age of 10, what drew you to the writing and to the craft?
Well, initially what drew me was, San Francisco Chronicle had, it was a sporting green. So it was like green. And I remember the columnist SIGs were drawings. They weren't like a picture. It was like a drawing of the columnist. So like she would have these two papers, and the Chronicle drew me because of that. But I was just mostly like one of them sports kind of nerds. I was just trying to get the info. I wanted to see the box scores. I wanted to read about, I just become like a 49ers fan. Like that was a big deal. Big Jerry Rice maniac, right? So like I was in it for the information. It was tough. Like my hat back then was that I was a smart kid. So I was reading so I could know the information so that I could go talk about how much I knew so I could feed the ego about being a smart kid. So that stuff hit me later that I was like learning how to write and reading good writing. But a lot of it was just like, hey, I need to know what's going on with my team, and I'm gonna read this just because I could read. Remember back when people used to spell out words, big words, and they talk about tough stuff and spell out words, and so the young people wouldn't know. I took pride in knowing. And reading and doing stuff like that helped me sharpen my tool bag for that.
Well, I've got
Dude,
two
that's
toddlers, so
way
there's a
back.
lot
That's
of
crazy.
there's a lot of spelling that goes on in my household, so I know what that's what that's like. Well, we'll stay in the Wayback Machine. So you're in college. So were you doing Atlanta Journal-Constitution Friday, Saturdays while you were in school?
Yeah. I sacrificed many parties. Like I tell you, man, there was so many times where it's like I got out of class, we hanging out, but man, I had to get on a bus and get downtown because I had to start making these phone calls to get scores from across the state. Like that's what we did. Like Friday and Saturday, we were, and you know how big like football is down there. So it was like get every score in the state, no question, right? You had to get it. So yeah, I used to catch the bus from Atlanta University Center to downtown to Atlanta Journal-Constitution without fail Friday and Saturday. The nights when it was most popping in Atlanta. Like I was wilding by doing that. But yeah, that was my formative years.
Did you get some bylines while you were there, or are you just doing agate?
I started with agate. Eventually, they trusted me with a byline on some like random game. I remember somebody got sick and couldn't cover a game, so they sent me out there one time. And then, like for some reason or another, one of the Clark Atlanta Morehouse games was worthy of being written about a little bit. So it was like, you go cover that. You go there, you do it all the time. So I got to cover that, and a little bit by little. They were stingy with it though, man. It was tough. But that's back when high school was big. There was a high school staff, and like I was just trying to crack into getting regular pieces back then. So yeah, I had a couple. It wasn't until I did an internship and came back the next year where they trusted me more.
As you're kind of doing this, do you remember when the love for the journalism element came in? I know you wrote for your college paper. You're the editor there too. Like, do you remember when that kind of hit? Like, oh, this is the career I want to go on.
That was actually the love of it, but came in high school. I knew I loved it in high school because we were like, it was just so much fun putting out the paper. Like, and we were like literally printing, cutting out and pasting, onto this big thing and sending it to the printer. And it was just fun. And I've told this story before, but we had this one dude who volunteered in our class. The teacher knew him somehow, and he would come. He was a journalist, and he wrote for Sports Illustrated, which I knew about because I read. Nobody else knew about Sports Illustrated. I was like, Sports Illustrated. It was like the most crazy thing, and he would come mentor us, and he was like, man, you're really good. And that was like the biggest thing I'd ever heard. I was like, what? I'm good. So then it got fun. So I literally quit the basketball team so I could spend more time doing journalism because I wasn't playing. So I was like, I'm not even playing. Like, what's the point? I'm the man over here on this journalism thing. So, but yeah, then come to find out that guy was Mike Silver, who now works with us. But that's where I started to love it. I didn't know it would be a career until I got to college, and then that whole process, it just felt like something, and that's when I started watching journalism movies, and
Mhm.
journalism movies were the most romantic things ever about the profession. Like, there were no better white knights than journalists, and, all the president's men, and, like so you watch those things and you doing it, it's like, "Oh, I'm a literal change maker out here. Like I'm an agent of society." So was where I felt like I'm gonna do this because it was the thing that I was good at. And people always tell me I was really good. I didn't know what that meant, but I just took it. Like, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I didn't know why, but they said I was good. I was good. So that we had a lot of fun doing that back then, pre-internet.
I was reading about some of your internships. So you had one of the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. What were kind of the memorable moments from that experience?
So I went through this program called Sports Journalism Institute
Yep.
with the great Leon Carter and Sandy Rosenbush. They accepted me to the program. They trained us. So we had to do the boot camp there first. And then they put you places. So they determine where you go. And somehow, and I went to a black college, right? Let me tell you, Kevin, I was black college. Like, you know what I'm saying? Go watch School Days. Like, I was into it. And then I'm from like East Oakland. So it was like I was very, very hood. And so apparently they had the perfect editor for me is a guy named Gary Howard. So I come in there, I got Jordans on, I'm sagging, my hat is like cocked to the side, I'm like a walking picture of West Coast gangster rap, right? So, and I remember writing my first article, and back then you would like print it out and take it to the editor, and they would, do the thing. So he printed out, he just called me into the office, and he was like, "You wrote this?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "So this is yours, like, you're claiming this." And I'm like, "Yeah." And, I thought I was all that. And he proceeded to, like, rip that paper up right in my face. Like, and it was everything I could not to cry. You know how, like, you're about to cry, and so you just do like this, and if you blink, the tears gonna go? So I was like, I can't blink because I can't let him see me cry. But I was like, yo, he tore it up. He was like, "You have to be better than this. You have to be. Like, my name is on you. Like, you don't get to turn in this kind of crap." So my next story, I went very hard. I remember it was about bleacher bums at old Milwaukee Brewer Stadium. And I went out and hung out in the bleachers. This was the summer of '98 during the McGuire Sosa home
Okay.
run chase. So catching a home run ball was like a big deal then. So I went out and just hung out during the game and came back with this like kind of interactive piece of, just being in there, just talking to a bunch of people, all these quotes and just making it feel like people were with me. And then that's when he was like, "Okay, all right. You're exactly who I thought you was." So that was like a very pivotal moment because I remember I gave it all I had. I thought I took my time. I didn't approach it arrogantly like I approached the first one. And so the visceral dichotomy of those two reactions was a very strong lesson, right? First one, I was like, "Yeah, I'm nice. You can't see me." And it got ripped up in my face. And the second one, I gave it all I had and I got approval. So that was the like early on immediate like important moment I had from that internship. That was a change. That was a changing moment right there.
And then was it next summer you were at Newsday?
Yeah, next summer I was at Newsday. I had the wonderful pleasure of turning down the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. They didn't give me an internship, even though I worked there. I was like, I work here. Well, what are you talking about? I got turned down for the internship. So then I go do Milwaukee, and then I come back, and I won like a couple of awards in college, like for like our college work. And then they offered me the internship, but Newsday offered me. So I was like, I will not be accepted your internship. And I went to New York. And that was another just incredible moment. I remember the Knicks were in the playoffs in the East Finals at that point. And my job, because I was like, yo, I told my editor, I have to go to this. Like, you don't understand. I have to be at this. Like, my whole life is pointing to this. So my job during the Knicks Eastern Conference Finals at first was to run the film. Remember, the courtside photographers would shoot with film, and somebody would run it from the courtside back so they could develop it and bring them back a clean set. But they couldn't leave the spot because you move. You never know what happened. So that was my job, was running the film back and forth, and I got to be there. And then the next series, they let me post up in the locker room at lockers, and I just got quotes. So they were, I remember Spreewell was a big deal. He very rarely talked, so when he did, you had to get the position right. So I would go stake out at a locker room and have my tape recorder there, and then, transcribe the quotes and give it to the actual reporters. So that was what I did. One of the most fun summers of my life, just doing silly little stuff like that.
So you've done these very internships at some quality institutions. I mean, like we can go into a longer podcast. Like I wish all these newspapers had internships these days.
Like they used to, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be nice for the young people. But what was your process like going from there to get kind of that first full-time job and be able to go back home?
So when I got the Newsday internship, uh, I felt pretty good about my readiness because they were telling me that I was pretty good. And, obviously my stuff was edited. I wasn't turning in stuff that didn't need to be edited, but like the stories I would come back and find, they thought were good stories, right? The attempts I was making at a lead, that basically they gave me good feedback, and they were hard. They were very hard. Like it's very rigid New York type stuff. So, and as I think like a month in, they had me doing more stuff. So I really felt like I can do this. And once you do it in New York, I feel like I was ready. So I started a month into my internship, sending out all these like introductory type deals. We had to mail it though back then.
Yep.
Like, so I'm getting my clips. I created this portfolio of my best stories with a resume and a cover letter, and I'm mailing it. So every week I'd had these places I wanted to go and mail it. I am from the Bay Area. I had determined the entire time I was going back home, much to everybody who ever mentored me's chagrin, because they was like, you don't get to do that. That's a top 10 market. But I was so certain, but also I had like family issues. I was like, I gotta go home. I gotta help my family. So I was going home, and I think I found, applied to a couple other places, just to appease them. But I had no intention of going anywhere else but back to the Bay Area. And Bay Area was a big place to go back then. You had the Oakland Tribune, Mercury News, San Francisco Chronicle, and the Contra Costa Times, right? You had 4 really good newspapers, and the Contra Costa Times was one of the top like middle level newspapers. Mercury News and San Francisco Chronicle was top 20. That's why they said I couldn't go there, because it was too advanced, right? So I had just started building a relationship through mail and phone calls. So I would mail the package, call, did you get the package? Call, what'd you think of the package? Any tips you can give me? And then my next round of stuff I thought was, I did good work, I'm sending that, So by the end of my internship, they was either tired of me, or in love with me, but either way, they knew exactly who I was, right? There was no question about it. So, I ended an internship like mid-August, and there's a guy named Jerry Miko at the Contra Costa Times who was like, yeah, we're gonna be hiring for high school in the fall. So once he said that, I was on him. It's like, that's my job, man. Like, quit playing. Like, that's my job. So he ended up hiring me. Like, I got hired like 2 weeks after I got out. I came and did my interviews and stuff once my internship ended. So I hit the ground pretty much with a job. And then the Oakland Tribune tried to hire me once I had already dealt with all that. But they didn't talk to me during the whole project. They weren't responding to my packages or nothing. So I felt like I had already kind of was loyal to the Contra Costa Time, even though it was in like the suburbs. And let me give you these numbers. Let me give you these numbers.
Hit me.
The
Here we
Contra
go.
Costa Times offered me $29,000, and Oakland Tribune offered me $25,000. So I was like, they offered me more money, and they was responding. So I've been dealing with them. It was a no-brainer. Even though I was from Oakland, I felt like I was selling out my lineage by going to this, this Walnut Creek paper. But that $4,000 felt like a lot, man. I was like, hey, no, it's more money. So I had a job like 2 weeks after, like, I got home. It was pretty quick.
I pulled up a few of your a couple NBA stories. I remember reading that you got to write about Ray Alston when you were doing your internship. I actually pulled up one from March 7th, 2000.
Like, how are you finding these things? This is insane.
Newspapers.com is a very
oh yeah, you're right.
yeah.
I do live on that. I've never thought to do that. I live on
Yeah.
newspapers.com. I never
There
thought
you
to look
go.
up my own work. That's crazy.
Yeah, you can go find your own work. You go find if people quote you, and you can find if people quote you incorrectly. But you got one here about you wrote about a video game about NBA Shootout 2000, and thinking about, I mean, this is a great time capsule piece to read, right? You think about where video games have come now, and in 2000, you're right. I think you wrote the lead was, in the video game world, you don't have to be 6'9" and have Isaiah Ryder-esque hops to dunk over Shaquille O'Neal, to throw a perfect 50-yard spiral to Jerry Rice, a la Steve Young. Just press a button. And in this era of technology, you can do the no-look pass of Phoenix Suns point guard Jason Kidd. Really, and you wrote about how they're building these video games around the athletes.
Hey, can we just talk about how impressive that lead was?
It was a good lead. Good lead.
Hey, I was doing that in 2000?
25 years ago.
Wow. All
And
right.
well, I brought that up because it was one of the earlier bylines I could find. Also, so much of what you do for us, so much of what you become known for is NBA. And I'm curious, as you talk about, this podcast about origin stories, like, what is kind of the Marcus Thompson, how you got to be like NBA guy, to kind of carve out your niche in that world? When did that kind of happen?
I'm assuming you want the honest answer, right?
I mean,
I was at a suburban.
That's preferred. You're a reporter. Don't you want honest answers?
Yeah. I know I don't get them all the time, though. So,
right.
As an NBA reporter, I mean, as a young black reporter, especially at a suburban newspaper, you get funneled.
That's
way.
What they send you there.
You get funneled that way. There's a guy who's out here. When I got there, Matt Steinmetz was the Warriors beat writer, and I was down to cover any pro beat, right? I was like, you pick it. I mean, my second year, I was doing sidebars on Giants during the Barry Bonds era, right? That was what was cooler than that, right? So, and I grew up an A's fan, so covering the A's is cool. So I was in my mind, any pro beat I wanted to do, but in the mind of them, they were like, yeah, he wants to be. Well, he probably wants to cover the NBA, right? And of course I did. It's not like I didn't want to cover the NBA, but I remember because the A's beat opened up and they gave it to another high school guy. And I was like, I don't even get an interview. And they were like, oh, we thought you wanted to cover the NBA. Like, why do you think that? Like, why do you think I don't want to cover baseball? So I ended up getting that gig, because the guy just quit one day. He's like, he got fed up and didn't want to do an assignment and quit. And they would ask me to do backup stuff. So essentially, when there was an opportunity to do backup stuff, like, they mostly came on basketball, right? And part of that was because the Warriors just wasn't the Warriors at the time. So it's not something where you have two writers on the Warriors. So they'll have two Giants writers. 49ers and Giants was it in the Bay Area, So you would have multiple writers on those. So the sidebar opportunities were limited until you got to the playoffs. Then it was like Bonds in the playoffs. It's all hands on deck. You got eight people in the press box. But so I could get more reps on NBA because that's where they needed a backup, and I very clearly was an obvious candidate to do that. So I would go do these backup pieces. So when he just quit, they were like, "You want to do the job?" And I was like, "Sure, of course. I want to do the NBA." Now that's how I saw it. It's clearly, now looking back on it, the sport I know the best. I covered high school basketball, then I covered St. Mary's College basketball. So it was a natural thing to go to the NBA. But I just rejected the notion that I couldn't do NFL. Like, y'all just put me in basketball. NFL is like just hard to get into, because it's the coveted position. Like, people don't leave NFL jobs. At least they didn't back then. So NFL was just always kind of off the table. Like, you ain't getting this. You're going to have to wait 20 years to get there. So it was like baseball or basketball. And they certainly, if they wouldn't put me on baseball, they weren't put me on hockey. So all that was left was the Warriors, right? So I was kind of game to do anything. And that's one of the things I learned in Milwaukee, to be ready to do anything. I don't think I did. I did a Ray for Austin story because they drafted him, but I didn't get to cover basketball. I was doing I think I went to a 3-on-3 tournament or something, but I did everything but basketball in Milwaukee. So that taught me you do everything and you kind of don't get to choose. And plus I had already made this grand decision to say I'm only working in the Bay Area. So to me to then say I'm only doing basketball would have been greedy. So I'm like, I said I wanted to be here. I made it here. I'll do whatever. But there was just always this natural connection that everybody was making with me covering basketball. I had this very intimate knowledge of the Warriors, so it was something to hop onto real easy. Like, in their minds, it wasn't much of a drop off as far as knowledge. Like, I knew the players and all that stuff. So it kind of made it like that. But I'm telling you, Kevin, it just wasn't the beat to be pining for back then. It just wasn't. So it wasn't like I felt like, oh, I covered the Warriors, I made it. I'm like, I'm on the smallest beat on the staff. So that's kind of how I felt about it and why I was a little bit like, don't just start penciling in for hoop. And then Steph Curry came and all that changed.
I ask everybody on this podcast for their welcome to the big leagues moment. You've already described what some might consider a few, but when you hear that phrase, you think about, we always ask rookies about your welcome big leagues moment. Does one come to mind? Could be positive, negative, just like when you're like, oh shoot, I'm here. This is a big deal.
Mine, I'd probably just skew. Well, I actually have two. One of them, I was doing a video game story, oddly enough, with Anton Jameson. Like, I forgot what it was, but something was happening with the game. It was taking too long to set up, and he got mad and was like, "Hey, what are we doing? Like, I got 2 more minutes." And I'm like, man, why? You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's about to play the game, and I had never felt that kind of pressure from a player before, where it was like, "Hey, you got 2 minutes." And I'm like, he ain't even set the game. Like, like I was clearly infringing on his time, and it felt like, oh, that. Like, I felt like insulted. I was a little bit like mad about it. Like, man, who the hell he think he is? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I felt. And so when I got that feeling, I feel like, oh, this is gonna be different. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I dealt with a dude who's like, hey, you don't get to waste my time. And I'm sitting here like, you don't get to waste my time. That's how I was thinking. But obviously I want to grow to know, like, his time is the one that matters. So that was like my first experience with like, okay, this is the big leagues now. Because in high school and college, like, they're just happy you're there. And the NBA is like, bruh, no. But my favorite moment, the one that I prefer, is just being absolutely lost as a rookie. I didn't know what to do. And the part that people don't understand about what we do is covering the game is the very small part. And I didn't know that. I didn't understand that. I thought you read a story, I'm better than that. Or I could do that. I can do it. Dude, I didn't know how to book a trip. I didn't know hotel. I didn't know anything. I didn't know where to go to find salary information. So I got this job and I had zero help. And they were just like, "You're the NBA guy. Of course you're gonna do it." And I got on this beat and I knew 99 I didn't know 90% of the job. So I'm going to these places and I'm telling you, like the first month, I'm literally just trying to figure out how to survive and not let everybody know. I have no idea what I'm doing. Like I'm missing every deadline because I don't even know where to go. And I'm trying to follow reporters and try to be cool about it. And it was like it was very that was a hard time. I remember telling my wife, I don't know if I can do this because I just didn't know. Like I didn't but like my first trip, I messed it up because I thought you just fly with the team. So then I have to book a flight because nobody told me. They just assumed, hey, you're an NBA guy. So you go know this. I didn't know anything. I didn't know when to eat, where to eat. I just didn't know anything. And it was so overwhelming. It was the first time in my life that I just didn't know. And I didn't know where to go to find out. And so I'm in Denver one time. And Mark Spears was the beat writer at the Denver Post. And he came and he introduced himself to me. And he asked me something. And I don't know why. Maybe it's because of who he is and how he is. I just straight admitted I had no idea. Like, he's like, you going to the post game? I was like, I don't know where they are. Like, you go to these forest stadiums. I don't know where the interview room is. Like, I don't know how to get to the locker room. And I just was too prideful or whatever at the time to say, hey, I don't know. How do I get here? So he showed me. And then he started asking me, what it is? Do you know this? And he just basically he told me everything I needed to know. Like he just started giving me stuff. Here's how you do this. He gave me this like document that told me where to book, where to get a rent a car, what cities to fly, all that. Restaurants that apparently there was this document. Remember, we used to have to do notebooks back in the day where you do your story, but before the game, maybe before halftime, you had to turn in a notebook, which was like a second story full of all the other stuff. Like, I didn't know where to get notebook stuff. I didn't, so I was always struggling trying to turn in a notebook. So he just sat down and he told me everything and then gave me his number. It was like, if you ever have any questions, help me out. That's what I felt like, yo, I finally got some help. Like that was I'm here. Like I'm not lost by myself. Like I got somebody. That was, whoo, boy, I'm telling you. He gave me the salary sheet because back then you had to get it from an agent to know what every player make. Now it's on like Spot Rack or whatever, or you can get it. Back then, you could not get that information. You literally had to know an agent. Guess how many agents I knew? Zero. Right? So he was like, I remember he went to the Denver media PR room and made a copy for me in there. Made a copy, stapled it, was like, here. So I had everybody's salary. I knew when the contracts was up. Like I walked out of that game feeling like, my goodness, dang, like now I'm an actual official reporter. That was like my welcome to the NBA moment because nobody helped me for that, and it was insane. I should look up when that was because that's whenever that first Denver game was in the 04-05 season was the first time I felt like an actual NBA reporter because I had what I needed to be an NBA reporter.
I should pull up your article from that game and like an article from the next game and see if it's like
see if it's a, you know what I'm saying? If I was in my bag the next game, well, that's crazy.
Yeah. Listen, you're not a sports writer until you get lost in the stadium looking for the interview room.
Bruh.
These things are still like,
that's the crazy
still
part.
happens
Don't go away.
all the time.
You should have seen me in Paris in the Olympics. I was like, and now you really can't ask nobody because I don't speak French. Like using my app, like, hey, yeah, you aren't a reporter unless that happens to you, no question.
So we'll wrap with the final two that I like to ask everybody. For you, the things that you learned, when you started, so 25, 30 years ago about writing, reporting, what's that through line to like early 2000s Marcus Thompson to Marcus Thompson that, had to earn the trust of Steph Curry and has had to, has accomplished what you've accomplished? What's kind of that thing that mattered then that still matters to who you are as a reporter today?
I'd probably say one is like care more about like the craft. then, the way I would fashion it now is like, when I'm talking to youngsters, is like craft over clout. But early on, you end up wanting to cover the sport for the sport. Like, I want to cover the pros so I can cover the pro. But really, it's the craft that we should be focused on. Like, the sport really don't matter. Like, if I want to cover the top, I need to be good, but I don't get good because I know basketball. I get good because I can meet deadlines, because I know AP style, because I know how to go find stories, and there's like a craft to what we do that's preeminent. Mike Silver used to talk about that when I was in high school, and I didn't really understand because I thought you were good at this by how many stats you remembered and how many memories you could recite and how well you knew the team. And people still think that, but nah, man. And especially when you end up covering stuff that you've never, like, you don't know. Like, I'm covering figure skating now. Like, I don't, I know Christy Yamaguchi because she's from the Bay. I know Debbie Thomas, the first black skater, but I can't tell you nothing about a triplets, but the craft, when you learn the craft of reporting, of writing, it crosses over into anything. So that to me is the through line is it became less once you in the job, you start learning it's so much less about how much warriors you know. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, can you talk to people? Can you do interviews, right? Can you get people to tell you stuff that they ain't supposed to tell you? Can you do research? Can you take complex subjects and make it so your audience can understand them? Like, that has nothing to do with the sport and has everything to do with the craft. So that's the part that I feel like I inadvertently and sometimes intentionally learn across the way. Like, yeah, and especially early on when you're not making any money and it's like, man, how do I make more money? And nobody know more words than me. Like, you think I should be making more money. And when I decided to just like, all right, let's get better at deadline. Let's start there. Let's get to the point where I can write clean copy on deadline so my editors can stay off my back, right? So let's do that. Let's be able to produce like 3 quality features in a season, right? Let's see how we can lift that, and then it becomes about like the actual craft of journalism. And I feel like once I understood that, then I got a lot better, like actually better. And it's not about the sport. So that, to me, that one doesn't really go away. The other one was a very hard lesson about what it's less about journalism, more about like what's for you is just gonna be for you. And you just
Mhm.
can't look at other people's career as shape your idea of what you should be off them. Like, as someone who has a relationship with Steph and everybody else wants that, you know, uh, so I understand better why other people just wouldn't be able to get a relationship with Steph. And I know it's not because I have some kind of magic. Like, it's just our personalities matched. You know what I'm saying? And there are some people I just won't, it just ain't gonna work like that. So I could either fake it and force it and deal with the ramifications of that, or I could just accept, like, here's my career, here's what I'm good at, and I just gotta be okay with that. And the other portion I'm not good at, I gotta work on. I had to learn how to talk to owners. I did not know how to talk to rich white people. I just didn't. I didn't know what to say. I didn't have any cultural references. You know what I'm saying? And I don't have any money. So I like, I don't know. The last time I was in their hood, I got ran out by my fear of getting lynched. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I had to learn how to talk to owners. I had to get better with GMs, but players like her, that was easy for me. You know what I'm saying? So then you get to the point where it's like, okay, well, I'm good at this, but everybody else is getting that. Like, I have to play out my career. I have to do my thing. I have to be me. And the more I can just be me authentically, I'm not fretting about how much Kevin is so further along than I was. And it's not fair. And Kevin knows this, that stuff holds you back because you're thinking about other people's career, but it's my career, right? And if I'm a woman, her career gonna be different than mine. Like her strengths gonna be different than mine, and you just gotta manage your own career instead of being so worried about everybody else. I was so worried about what everybody else was getting and how they were doing, and it used to drive me absolutely insane. Somebody gets a job, and I'm like, I'm better than them, and I don't even know the job, right? Like, I don't even know what the strength of the job requires. I just feel like I'm better than them because I'm better than them at the thing that I do. But if the thing that I do isn't what the job requires, they actually might be better than me at the job, But lock in on yourself. You have your own career. What's supposed to be for you will be for you. And I was supposed to have a relationship with Steph. Like that's how it's supposed to be. It's so fluky. It wasn't me. Like I didn't draft a dude at number 9. Like, I didn't make it so dude's favorite fell apart. So it was 2 people traveling his whole career. You know what I'm saying? I didn't do that. Before it used to be 6 or 7 people on the road. It was just me and Steph. Like, right? And Steven Jackson and Baron Davis, like, and Monte Ellis. It was just me. So some of that stuff is like, I didn't really do that. So I understand now why people are looking, and I'm trying to tell them, like, listen, this is just my career. Right? Like, you didn't have that advantage. You can't walk in year 15 of Steph's career and expect him to treat you like me. Like, I was there when he didn't know what he was doing. You know what I'm saying? So that's just my career. Like, now I don't know. Like, David Aldridge knows everybody from every era. You know what I'm saying? He could pick up a phone and call people. And I'm like, how do you even do this? Like, that's his career. It's not mine. So that is it was a very hard lesson to learn throughout. But once you get it, you own your career. You own your career. Now you can just get better at maximizing you, not because Kevin is better than you.
I like this. Not because Kevin is better than you. Might could be the podcast title to the episode.
Hit it because Kevin is better than you. Yeah.
September 15th, 2006, by the way, I had this one up because I thought about this when you mentioned Baron Davis. Your lead here, the Latin word verso means the side of the page that is to be read second. In layman's terms, it means the flip side, the rest of the story. And then you get into Baron Davis and Verso Entertainment. Another good one. And,
Look at that.
And your kicker, your last line, now that is Verso. So you brought it all together.
I was
Marcus,
right
I usually end with my last question is always your advice to people breaking in. I feel like you just touched on a lot of it, but if you have anything else that you would, things you would tell young people who want to get into this industry, it's so different now, obviously, than it was when you started, when I started. But are there other things you kind of like to wisdom you like to lend?
Oh yeah, for this, like the current generation, I'm trying to figure out the best way to say don't be entitled. Like they, like you prefer the harder road is what I would say. Like prefer it. It's gonna benefit you in the long run. Like now you walking in 2 years experience, jumping on professional teams because the industry is that way now, right? Like nobody's covering high schools and small colleges. So now bad pro teams are the high schools, right? But those mistakes there are far more punitive, and I know it looks appealing and, everything is about clout and social media and you want to be here, but like we learned a lot of stuff, a lot of valuable lessons on the way up, and you are being robbed of that by the industry. You're being put into positions where failure is most likely. You're on staffs where they just don't have the manpower and the time to walk you through that stuff, and going too fast sets you up to fail. Like prefer the hard route. Don't rush. The NBA ain't going nowhere. NFL ain't going anywhere. These things, like sports is only getting bigger. The last thing you want is to get there and be overwhelmed because you had an easier road. So I just hear a lot of young people like, man, I've been doing this for 2 years. It's time. Like you have no idea what you're asking for. And the lessons that you're trying to skip are the reasons you might fail. So don't feel like you're entitled to anything. Your path is your path. It might take you through around back here somewhere, but I'm telling you, it might be good for you in the long run. Don't move too fast because it is cutthroat out here. It is hardcore. So yeah, prefer the harder path. It's okay that it might take you 5 years instead of 2. Like the lessons you learn in those 3 years are the reason you're gonna stick at the top level.
I was going to end with one really quick rapid fire NBA question, but I could throw a figure skating one if you want.
Oh, ain't that
Well,
advanced?
I was going to ask you. What I was going to ask was because we're recording this in early September. This will run at near the start of the NBA season. Is there give me one NBA player that you're excited to watch this year for whatever reason? Just like one NBA player. Like I'm very interested to watch this guy this season.
Like you mean just like from afar, or like go to the arena and watch?
Yeah, from afar, just like a guy whose season you're curious about.
Andrew Nembhard.
Okay.
I really want to watch. Like, I think he's really good. He's a weird one because he's got a lot of dog in him, but he's got a little bit more offensive skill than people think. And he's at this point where no Tyrese Halliburton, where he might be best suited just being who he is now, but he could go to another level. But again, higher level exposes you, right? So is he that good? I want to see if he's that good, or if he should just stay in his sweet spot right here. Good defender, plays hard, can get you a bucket on time. Or is he somebody, a superstar to make it? I don't know. So I just like that dude's game and I want to watch him. So I hope this works out for him.
Marcus Thompson, this was awesome. You were one of those people that if I see your byline, regardless of the topic, could be figure skating, could be track and field, I hit you up this week because I love the story you wrote about Veronica Burton, NBA. It's like Marcus wrote something, got to read it, got to set some time aside because you're one of those. You're one of those writers that it's important to read what you do. So it's awesome to have you on the podcast and get to hear how you broke in.
I appreciate it. Thank you, man. Thank you for thinking of me. Shout out to Courtney Cronin, my homie. Maybe give me a call one of these days. Remember the people who helped you get where you're. No, just playing.
Shout out Courtney.
Shout out Courtney Cronin.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Marcus.
All right.